You ready? Because now we start our chapter 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, as it is called Attaining the Supreme. Let's see. Hope you have a good journey. This is what we want to attain the Supreme, to get there. But first, there are some questions. Arjuna starts questioning. Arjuna inquired, "Oh my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me." All these topics were spoken previously by Krishna. He talked about Brahma, he talked about the self, he talked about karma, he talked about this material manifestation and the demigods, and now Arjuna wants Krishna to clarify these topics. Also, he asks, "Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?" Very interesting questions. The first one, how does he live in the body? He's talking about the super soul. Because Krishna had spoken to Arjuna about the super soul. And Arjuna is, how is that the super soul lives in the body? What is it? And the last verse of chapter 7, if you go back to chapter 7, if people understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death, they can attain the Supreme. So Arjuna wants Krishna to clarify certain topics, and he asks the final question about the last instruction given by Krishna. How can those engaged in devotional service know you, the Supreme, at the time of death? We see a picture with Krishna and Radha, but he was talking to Arjun when he said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "The indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activity." You see, what is Brahman? Arjuna asked. Brahman is the transcendental living entity, which is indestructible. This entity has a nature, and that nature, that spiritual nature of Brahman, is Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the bodies of living entities is the karma action. Yes, fruitive activities. We have already spoken about it, about karma. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called adibhuta, the material manifestation. the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and the moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represent as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adiyagya, the Lord of sacrifice. Krishna was very straight to the point. Arjuna asked the questions, Krishna replied. Arjuna asked, what is Brahman? That is the living entity. What is the self? The self is the nature, the spiritual nature of the living entity. The spiritual, yes, because there is also the material manifestation, the physical nature. There is the spiritual, adhyatma, and there is the material nature, the physical nature, that is adibhuta. The universal form of the Lord, the demigods, the sun, the moon, this is adidaiva. Daiva, the word Deus, comes from daiva, deva, adidaiva. Like if you take all the demigods and all the universe, and this form is called adidaiva in Sanskrit. And the Supreme Lord, Krishna, represented as a super soul in the heart of all living entities, is Adi Yangya. Yangya is the sacrifice, yes, which has to be done. This is pertaining to the questions Arjuna had asked uh, here. You see? What is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities, the karma, the material manifestation, Adibhuta, Adidaiva, the demigods, the Lord of sacrifice, Adiyagya, in the heart. And the final question, how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Wow, that's when Krishna is going really deeper. Okay? 5. And whoever, at the end of his life, quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there's no doubt. You see, whoever, any person who, anyone that at the end of his life, when we die, tell you again, this chapter is about death. That's about death, this one here. The end of this life. If quit the body, yeah, when you leave the body, remembering me alone, if we can remember Krishna, that moment we can attain his nature. Of this, there is no doubt, there's no question. It's unquestionable that this is Krishna speaking. Yes, there's no doubt that if we can focus our connection, that's where we go. How is it possible? Krishna is going to analyze that a lot throughout this chapter, really. Very important verse to understand the Vedic philosophy. Verse 6. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. What is it? The point is, whatever you remember when the spirit leaves the body, that is the state the spirit will enter into without fail. It's always like that, you know. So remember, it's very important. This is a key word throughout this chapter. Really, remember, especially when we die, yeah. And why? Because whatever state, yes. If you're thinking, if so, it means that if I'm thinking about my cats, I have three cats. If I die, I'm going to die, and I think, oh, my cats, and then I die. Krishna is saying that that's the direction I'm going to. That would be the state. My next life is so directed by my last remembrance. That's why we should prepare ourselves. That's the essence of the Vaishnavism, serving to the Lord. Therefore, Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you attain me without doubt. So the idea is, I always remember that quite a stupid song. Pense em mim, chore por mim. Always think of me in the form of Krishna, not Leonardo. Please. But if you think in the form of Krishna and carry out your duty. Not just, okay, I'm going, so the point is that I'm going to think about Krishna and then what? And work, do what you have to do, dedicate your activities to me, and your mind and your intelligence fix on me, this supreme consciousness. Then we will attain that supreme consciousness, Krishna, without doubt. Without doubt. That's the second time Krishna said, without doubt, without fail, and again without doubt. Without doubt. Oh my God. Without doubt. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. That's why I put this picture of Krishna and his friends that are always connect with Krishna. They represent that, constantly engaged, like Radharani, always engaging, remembering Krishna, and is sure to reach that manifestation. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who's the oldest, who's the controller, who's smaller than the smallest, who's the maintainer of everything, who's beyond all material conception, who's inconceivable, and who's always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. You see there the yogi on meditation. Look at his nails, long nails, very long nails, his beard, the plants growing over him. You see? Oh, look at the nails of his toes. and then on top of his head you see something there. Oh, there's a tiger here, if you see. A beautiful image. I love it. And it points to this direction. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows, between the eyebrow, fix the life air here. And by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, firm, undeviated, it's not undeviated mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's giving us a step by step preparation for death. That's why the Hare Krishnas sing a lot Hare Krishna, because to see if that helps when we are dying. Fix the air between the eyebrow and go. Remember the Supreme Lord and have a nice journey. Yes, in full devotion. Persons who are learning the Vedas, who utter the Omkara, Om, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Shloka 12. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One established himself in yoga. It's very interesting when we go into English. This is the first time I'm reading the Gita in English with you. I read the Bhagavad Gita many times, let's say that, but never in English. This is the first time. And then it's interesting because when they say the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement, for me, Brazilian Cristiano, this sensual, I connect a lot with sex. Ah, sensual, sex. In English, I saw, no, cara, no, it's not that. All sensual engagement, this word sensual has to do with the word senses, not only the sex. It's about all senses. What you hear, what you see, what you speak, what you eat, what you touch, closing all the doors of the senses, detached from all sensual engagement. So you see, that is the platform in which people are not into building up something materially speaking. They can, okay, yes, but look at that picture. I tell you, he's been meditating for a long time. Long, long time. Detached from all sensual engagement, even eating. Just focusing that air on top of the head and the mind in the heart. So that's how to establish themselves in yoga. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the supreme personality of Godhead and quit his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Let me show you here. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I'm easy to obtain, O son of Prita, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So he's saying it's not difficult to obtain that consciousness. It's a practice. Yes, you always remember without deviation. Practice required. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeat birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. These verses are quite mysterious because at the same time they show a displease, a dislike from the material world. I also understand that if I think about how about Prabhupada? So Prabhupada, if Prabhupada was here, taking him as an example, if he was here in this world, does that mean that even he, because never returned to the temporary world, so if he was here, was because he was not a yogi in devotion? And how about Arjun? These guys, even Radharani, you see the picture Krishna and Radha on the side here. She was born, yeah, but the consciousness is not a mundane consciousness. That's something I. It took me some time to realize that when he talks about that, never takes birth again, we can also understand in a mundane mindset. They have attained the highest perfection. They never return to this temporary world. And how about the great guys? So they're not so great. I understand that. No, no, they're here, but they're not here. I mean, not mentally connected in this mundane reality. But even though they are here, they're connected with the divine in this birth. And that's interesting. It's quite a paradox there. That guy, multi-face, he has four heads. He's Brahma, the creator of the universe. His four heads represents the four directions. There's a beautiful story of Brahma's creation. I'm not going there. But why did I put that? And you see, he is creating the universe, sitting on a lotus flower. And why is Brahma there? Because of verse 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Brahma is the manifestation, according to the Vedic literature, is the manifestation of the Lord responsible for creating this cosmic manifestation. One of his days is 1,000 ages, so it's over 500,000 years in our perspective. And that is his night, the same duration, you know. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Big Bang, Big Crush. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Yet, there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifest and unmanifest matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. The spirit, isn't it? The another unmanifest nature, eternal, transcendental, supreme, never annihilated. Everything is annihilated. Even the sun one day has collapsed, the stars, the you know. But something remains. What is it? What is it? That's the answer. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Abode is like a house where I live, not physically necessarily, can be in the mind, in mental aspect, in spiritual platform. Yes, that's the supreme destination. That place which is not a place. When you go, you never return. That is consciousness, Krishna's consciousness, unmanifest, infallible. The supreme personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all pervading, and everything is situated within him. Attained by unalloyed devotion, without any alteration. Yes, present, always present in his abode, all pervading. Yes, it's everywhere, and everything is situated within him. God. God is everywhere and everything is in God. That's what he's saying there. And by devotion we get to this platform. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. The Vedic science is so full of details. They study the movement of the stars and they say that there is a good time to make children and there is time that you should not make children. There's a good time to sleep and there's a time it's not good to go to sleep. There's a time to eat, there's a time that is not good to eat. And here Krishna is going to talk about the times when we die. What happens if that yogi, especially the one absorbing the Brahman, when do they return or they do not return? Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Oh, let's see that. Those who know the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, yes, the people who chant the Om. When they passing away, yes, die. When they die, when they pass away from the world, during the influence of the fiery god, yeah, the fiery god, the sun, during the day, in the light, especially auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight, yes, a period of about 2 weeks. The waxing moon is when the moon is a crescent until the full moon, from new and the moon growing until the full moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. And so what? The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. You see, in both, he's talking about the mystics. He's not talking about any person. No, no, no. There are other other destinations. We go through them later. But here he's talking about the mystic people who practice yoga, who sing the Omkara and meditate, and like if they die during the influence of the light, they don't return. If they die in the darkness, they must come back. Even though they reach the moon planet, like a celestial heaven, and stay there for thousands of years, but they have to return. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes In darkness, he returns. I understand that he's not just talking about the day, the night, materially speaking. I see something more, even metaphorically speaking. When one passes in light with a luminous consciousness instead of a dark consciousness. Yeah, this world is evil, full of bad people. There are so many bad politicians. And so it goes, you know. Even though the guy might be even very advanced, but that person must return. Although the devotees know these two paths, oh Arjun, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. The devotees know these two paths and they are never bewildered. Yeah, they are never confused. Why not? Because that here does not apply to the devotees. That's what we're going to see very soon. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. How can I not remember Jesus when he said, buscai antes o reino de Deus e tudo vos será acrescentado. That's, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft. You don't never loses the results of studying the Vedas because some people, oh, I want to study the Veda for perfection. Okay, no, I want to perform sacrifices. Okay, no, I want austerities. Yes, no, giving charity. Okay, or pursuing philosophical, fruitive activities. They are all paths to the supreme. But according to this last verse on chapter 8, Krishna is saying that people who enter in this platform of devotion, they attain all these perfections. And at the end, when one dies, that person reaches the supreme eternal abode. And so, my friends, we finish chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, attaining the supreme by remembering Lord Krishna in devotion throughout one's life, and especially at the time of death, one can attain to his supreme abode beyond the material world. Hare Krishna.